Hey, Duncan. You enter to find Wu stalking the floor silently, one hand held rigidly near his hip, the other flexing and unflexing again and again. When he notices you, he nods once and goes back to his caged panther routine. You're gonna wear a hole in the floor that way. Wu keeps pacing. Need something? Are you going to be okay? Yep, just trying to maintain. Pacing helps. Been thinking about Josephine saying. What she did to our family, what she did to Carter. His pace increases a bit and his tusks jut forward slightly. Josephine sang. Goddamn Josephine sang. And how I'm gonna make her pay for it. All that thinking and pacing, and that's what you came up with? That you're gonna make her pay for it? I was thinking of all the ways I could make her pay. Come up with anything fun? Oh yeah, I can be creative when I want to. The old Duncan is coming out to play. Wu's eyes smolder. Here's what we do. We walk into Sang headquarters and ask for the boss. When she comes down, we grab her, take her somewhere quiet, and ask her why she had Carter and those runners killed. Find out what happened to Raymond, whether he's alive or dead. What happens next is up to her. Kidnap a member of the Hong Kong Executive Council while there's an APB out on us. It's bold. They'll never see it coming. This is the way to go. My way. My way, Duncan? Yeah, my way. There's one way this is gonna go. He catches himself. Understanding appears in his eyes. Oh, crap. That's what Ray used to say. Raymond Black, our benevolent dictator. No questioning his rules, no falling short of his expectations. It was his way or the wrong way. Or you'd get the full-on Raymond treatment. I didn't care to be on the receiving end of that. And I was more than once, that's for sure. You remember what happened a few years after we moved out of the squat into his house? The thing with Double Tray and Lockjaw when he accused us of relapsing back into our old ways? Man, that was when Ray's authority finally got tested. His raspy baritone was tinged with satisfaction. When I finally stood up to him. Yep, the way he handled that was part of the reason I eventually left. He just wouldn't listen. I thought that might have been part of it, but to be fair, I wasn't listening either. That was our pattern, wasn't it? I wouldn't listen, he wouldn't listen, then we butted heads. Rinse and repeat once every few weeks. He smiles, but it's filled with regret. But that time was the worst. His face settles into an expression of resignation. Okay, Miss Meowlissa, we don't need to do things my way. No need for us to butt heads. He stretches. You can hear his joints crack. And on that note, I'm gonna have to ask you to clear out. It's been another long day. I'm getting the feeling that they're all gonna be long days. Yeah, I'm getting that feeling too. Anyway, have a good night, Bubusky. I'll catch you later. Alright, hey, that's not my name anymore. Just for the record. It's not Bubusky Meowlissa anymore. It's Alley Cat. You know, maybe get in the habit. Isabel's avatar blossoms onto the screen at your approach. Hey, this is just the same shit. It's just the same. Why is there no change there? Gobbet glances up at the sound of your approach. A slight smile crosses her face. Hey, ya pal. She puts her hands on her hips, sending madness scurrying. Are you ready for your next lesson? Absolutely, hit me with it. Straight to business. She nods appreciatively. I like that. Good. This one is about people like Auntie Chang and why we need them. There won't be a Q&A session after this story, but I want you to listen up. It's important. I'm all ears. Alright, so here's the upfront lesson. Fixers are important. You can't just go to a Johnson yourself and get a job. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't. It's a bad idea all around. Okay, go on. The reason why it's a bad idea to cut people like Auntie Chang out is because you need someone to vet your clients. That's important. It protects the whole team. She takes in a breath, lets it out slowly. You You remember the lesson from last time? The one about Sui and the shiny object? Yeah. Well, after the run was over, we went back to the sinking ship for some R&R. Sui had told us about that the client would be sending a boat to collect the shiny object in the morning. All that we had to do was keep the thing safe until the handoff. We were in a celebratory mood. We'd killed an evil wizard and stolen a priceless artifact. A good night's work by anyone's standards. Onu and he got good and drunk in record time, so he went back to his cabin with the shiny object to, I don't know, stare at it for a while or something. I retired to my cabin and crashed out. It had been a long night. I remember waking up to sounds. Yelling, maybe? I was groggy and they were far away. I couldn't quite make them out. The clock said 4:30 a.m. People were always partying on the raft, playing loud music, shooting off fireworks, that kind of thing. So loud noises early in the morning weren't unusual, but something felt off somehow. That'd be your subconscious trying to warn you of something. She nods. Yeah, it's all like a panic attack, really. That full body certainty that something is wrong. So I got up to investigate. If something was wrong, I wanted to know, and if it wasn't, I figured that I might as well get in on the party. I stepped out into the hallway and my foot slipped. I came down hard, landed on my ass, and found myself sitting in a pool of blood. That's not good. She shakes her head, grimacing. No, it was pretty bad. So it was pretty obvious by this point that something had gone horribly wrong. My first thought was that the shiny object might have, I don't know, unleashed something. After what I saw it do in that warehouse, I wouldn't have been surprised. I shook that off pretty quick, though. I knew what this was. Our client was playing us. He'd hired us to steal the thing, and rather than paying us for the job, he'd sent another team to take it away. Given what happened at the warehouse, I'd have assumed that the shiny object was to blame. Sure, I get that. It did some scary shit back in that warehouse, but it had also been sitting dormant for a long time before Sui and I stole it. Anyway, I got up and brushed myself off, and then I beelined for Malvina's cabin. She was the closest thing that the sinking ship had to a leader and the strongest rat shaman on the raft. Why go to her? Why not head straight to Sui's cabin? She stares at you blankly. Because I'm not an idiot. Sorry, that wasn't aimed at you. But think about it for a second. If there was a retrieval team coming for the shiny object and they were strong enough to handle Sui while he was holding it, what chance would I have of stopping them? I figured that it was time to bring out the big guns. Malvina was the one whom I could get them from. I passed some pretty bad stuff on my way down to Malvina's cabin. It was Old Man Shuyon's vault all over again. The torn up bodies, the blood-streaked floors. I saw people who'd been cut apart with machetes, scorch marks on the container walls. She bites her lip, grimacing at the unpleasant memories stewing in her head. Deep down in the pit of my gut, I could feel the thrumming vibration of the shiny object. That heartbeat feeling that I had in the warehouse, it was back and stronger than ever. Whatever that rock was, it was awake. Did you make it to Malvina's cabin? Yes. I burst through the door, all ready to spread the news, and someone smashed a gun into my face. It was Cadmus, my friend. He jammed the muzzle of his Super Warhawk into my cheek so hard it hurt, then grabbed me by the belt with his other hand. I wasn't going anywhere. Just over his shoulder, I saw Malvina. She didn't look amused. Did they think that you were in on the attack somehow? Yeah, only it wasn't an attack. Our client had nothing to do with it. Turns out there was no client, so he had lied to us. And by helping to steal the shiny object, I'd unwittingly given him what he needed to foment a mutiny. She pauses for a moment, gathers her rats in her hands and lifts them to her shoulders. They scurry over the leather of her coat and disappear into her hair. As it turns out, betrayal hurts, Seattle. Malvina felt it, and I felt it too. So he had been a friend. I had just risked my life to save his, like, 4 hours ago. And he tricked me into helping him doing something unthinkable. Why do you think he did it? Why all of this over a heap of junk floating in a bay? I don't know. Maybe he'd gone toxic. Maybe he got ambitious and wanted to be the king of our little aquatic hill. He didn't discuss it with me first or anything. I'd be willing to bet that something had gone rotten in Sui long before we ever met. He was pretty damned good at hiding it. Maybe it happened recently. He could have been possessed. She holds up a hand. I don't know why he did it. Frankly, I don't care. The only thing that's important here is that he did. So, what did you do? What could I do? I didn't have a whole lot of options, and Cadmus was kind of on edge, like red-faced and screaming. So I opened my mouth and I fast-talked my way out of it. I started off by doubling down on my loyalty to Malvina, Cadmus, and the status quo on the sinking ship, swearing my undying friendship. You know the drill. I did a good job of it, but they still looked a little iffy. Iffy with a warhawk is bad, so I volunteered to prove myself by stealing the shiny object back from Sui. That was brave of you. I know, right? Not my style at all, but then I didn't really have a choice. I'd inadvertently helped to arm the bastard who was tearing our friends and neighbors apart. I don't think I could have cleared my name without taking his weapon away again. Yeah, that tracks, I think. It was a hell of a night. I don't want to get into too many gory details. Friends died. Hell, friends killed each other. It was brother against brother, all that jazz. And Sui's indiscriminate use of the shiny object let a lot of things into this world that shouldn't have been. Did you get a good view of them this time? Yeah, I wish that I hadn't, but I did. I don't really know how to describe the things. They were like animals, but wrong. Too many tails, bones in the wrong places, huge open sores, that kind of thing. They were spirits manifested in physical form, I think. Most of them took the form of rats, swarms of insects, rotting things, all of the old pestilence tropes. Sometimes there were colonies of things all tangled together and moving as one. Not the sort of thing that I want to see again. Ever. So anyway, long story short, I got the shiny object back from Sui. It wasn't easy, but I got it. You want to elaborate on that? Not really. I used lies and misdirection, trickery. That helped. She pauses a moment, frowning. Some of the things that Sui let loose actually came in handy, funny enough. He'd summoned so many of them that he couldn't hope to control them all, and that gave me an opening to use them to my advantage. I was able to steer some of Sui's followers into a pack of the damned things. It worked. Wasn't pretty, though. I managed to trick my way past Sui's supporters and the astral menagerie that he'd summoned. Wasn't easy, but I did. Then I stole the shiny object and all was right with the world. And yeah, I'm intentionally glossing over the details. I had to do some things that I'm not proud of, and people died because of it. But I got the damn thing, and I got it back to Malvina. Oh, I am like getting very cloggy throat. What happened then? Long story short, Malvina put the shiny object to better use than Sui ever did. She took the thing like she'd grown up using it. We still lost dozens of people, but Sui's side lost more. Cadmus was critically wounded, but he pulled through. After the skirmish, Malvina held an assembly. She told everybody that there'd be new rules for life on the raft. Anyone who refused to follow them could leave, and if you broke them, you were done. The rules of the sea and all that. After the pronouncement, she turned on the surviving mutineers. Honu was one of them. He'd been in on Sui's plan the whole time. She didn't kill... I need a drink. She didn't kill them, but she did exile them from the sinking ship. And for people in our economic bracket, that was as good as a one-way trip to the walled city. I'd be willing to bet that they're all dead by now. In the wake of Malvina's ultimatum, five survivors left the sinking ship. I was one of them. Why did you leave? I had to go. We may have washed the blood off of the decks, but the energy of the sinking ship had changed. It wasn't the carefree haven that I'd loved anymore. And as sensible as Malvina's rules were, I wasn't up to living under them. We parted on good but sad terms, and as you'd expect, we drifted apart over the years. It's funny, I hadn't even thought of Malvina or the sinking ship in years, not until I decided to teach you your previous lesson, and it all came flooding back. She pauses, turns to you. That's the story. It's finished. But I want to circle back on the lesson that I gave you up front because it's important. We need Auntie Cheng to bring us work. That's obvious. But we also need her to keep us honest, to be sure that we, on the team, are playing straight with one another. Auntie Cheng's reputation rides on the legitimacy of the jobs that she brings us, and that, more than anything, is why we need her. If we didn't have Auntie Cheng, or someone like her, we'd eventually tear ourselves apart. It happened on the sinking ship, it could happen again in Hioi. So anyway, that's the lesson. If you've got follow-up questions, go ahead and ask them. What did Malvina do with the shiny object? Well, first she used it to get rid of the things that Sui had let loose, then she put it away for safekeeping. It's probably still there on the sinking ship, ensconced in some shrine or another, held under lock and key. She should have tossed the thing to the bay. Yeah, agreed. I didn't like it either, but then she'd already proven that she could handle the thing, and it did help her put down Sui's mutiny. Plus, she's a shaman. We deal with dangerous magic beyond mortal ken on a daily basis. It's not that weird for us. Yeah, but still. Remember that she'd just watched her home, the home that she was supposed to guide and protect, tear itself apart. She'd lost a lot of friends and failed in her duties as a leader, and I think that hit her pretty hard. In the shiny object, she saw something that could help her keep that from ever happening again. Given the choice between tossing it and keeping it in her back pocket, well, you do the math. Like I said, I'd have preferred it if she ditched the thing, but in the end, it wasn't my choice to make. From what little I'd heard, she's still in power over there, so I guess that it worked out okay. And Sui, what happened to him? That walking colostomy bag was already dead, eaten by his own monsters after I took the shiny object away. Turns out he wasn't much good at controlling them without it. Her voice fills with grim satisfaction. He didn't even live long enough to watch his mutiny fail. That's a bummer. Any thoughts about that last run? I think that went pretty well. There aren't a lot of runners who can say they went up against Ares and came out ahead. Sure, maybe the job could have gone a little smoother, but how are we supposed to account for another runner team showing up? Adaptability, Seattle. That's what makes a good runner. Always go with your instincts. I think you made the right call giving those guys the laser. I mean, sure, who doesn't like lasers, but would another gun really make that much a difference for us? That team sounded like the kind of people who won't forget a debt. Sometimes that's the difference between living and dying, who you can call in a pinch. Thanks, Gobbet. Sure, and Seattle, thanks for listening. These lessons are for your benefit, but I think that they help me too. And it's nice to be taken seriously every now and then. No problem, Gobbet. I'll look forward to the next one. Her face lights up. Yeah, me too. Now get a move on. I've got Gobbet things to do. Gobbet, I love you. I'm gonna say that every time we're like done talking to Gobbet. I love her. She's so good. She's just the best. Oh, did we collect? Yeah, we did. Right? Yeah. Hey, Raptor.
Ah, my friend, you have done an admirable job indeed. I have already incorporated the technology that you recovered, my stolen tech, into a new chassis that I'm fabricating for Koshei.
You move quick.
Yes, well,
he tips the cigarette. A cone of burning embers tumbles to the ground.
I have been waiting for this for a long time. The next time we take to the field, you can expect to find Koshei's combat effectiveness considerably improved. He has become truly deathless, just as his namesake was in the legends. When he takes damage, he will mend himself before your eyes.
That sounds incredible. Can't wait to see it in action.
Nor can I, my friend.
He turns back to the whirring machines that fill his shop, watching their progress with hunger in his eyes.
Nor can I.
Okay, we can talk to him. Okay, cool. Quiet night in the shop, huh?
Yes, a quiet night.
He takes a drag on his cigarette.
One best suited for contemplation, planning, and visions of the future.
Care to pick up where we left off last time? His smile widens, light gleams off of strong, sharp teeth, lending him a predatory appearance.
If you like, I must confess I've rather enjoyed our talks. It is good to have a sounding board to bounce ideas off of.
Agreed. Our talks have been pleasant in an academic sense.
Glad to hear that we're on the same page.
He takes a drag on his cigarette.
I must confess, I sometimes forget how to interact with others. I am, by nature, a solitary creature. It is good to have a kindred spirit, someone whom I can understand on the team.
Crochet scuttles forward, mechanical pedipalps weaving. Its motions are as alien and charged with menace as they've ever been. Raptor glances at the machine and it takes a step back. He claps his hands together and rubs them briskly.
So, my friend, you had questions for me. Go ahead and ask them, please. I will answer whatever I can.
You said that you sometimes forget how to interact with other people?
An idiosyncrasy of mine, I suppose. When I get lost in my own head, relating to others becomes difficult.
He smiles apologetically.
It's nothing personal, just a quirk that I occasionally struggle to hide.
You're doing a pretty good job of it. You've always been friendly with me.
Ah, but when you come down here, we talk about things that are relevant to my interests. That makes it easier. In any case, thank you. Your kindness is appreciated.
The last time we talked, you hinted at Crochet being special in some way. I want to hear the full story.
Yes, I had figured that you might. Tell me, have you noticed anything unusual about Crochet in the time that we have worked together?
He seems to react to your moods. It's weird. He's almost more like an animal than he is a drone. He nods, his lips pursed.
Yes, a good observation. Crochet's behavior could be described as animalistic, and for good reason.
I'm waiting. The drone lowers itself, its killing legs splayed. Raptor looks to the drone, his head cocked. Then he returns his gaze to you.
His behavior is not drone-like because he is not a drone. At least, not in a way that you would understand. He is a prosthesis.
Explain.
The principle is really very simple. You can think of him as a cyberlimb, if you will. We may be separated by distance, but he is joined to me as surely as a replacement leg is to its wearer.
Hang on. You're telling me that you're always rigged into your drone?
No, not on a conscious level, no. But subconsciously, yes. There is a constant two-way stream of data flowing between my brain and his systems. When he takes a step, I can feel it as a tingle in my spine. When he tears into flesh, I feel the satisfaction. We are a singular entity in two bodies. Metal and flesh made one.
You're gonna have to explain that.
Crochet acts as a home for my primal animal impulses. The id, to use Freud's structural model of the psyche. The analytical portions of my mind, the ego and superego, live on in me. They govern the id and, by extension, Crochet's behavior. When we're on a run and I rig into Crochet, I do not command him to attack. Rather, I loosen my grip on his reins and allow him to kill. He wants to hunt, to dominate, to bathe himself in blood. Reproduction would also be a drive if such a thing were possible.
So if you were killed, Crochet would, what, run amok?
He chuckles. No, my friend, of course not. Crochet is not capable of storing any part of a human mind. He simply doesn't have the capacity for it. If I were to die, he would fall dormant, the same as any other drone. One day, perhaps I will perfect him, and a part of me will live on in his chassis after the meat of my body dies. But for now, I am satisfied to live with him as a combined entity, man and machine, joined through a form of neural parabiosis into a single being. A beautiful first step into a post-human future.
I guess that if I have to know a mad scientist, I'm glad that he's on my side. He snickers.
Well said, my friend, and the feeling is mutual. If I must associate with violent criminals, I suppose that I am happy to call them friends.
Okay, so you've rigged your drone to act as a home to your most destructive impulses. I've gotta ask, why? I've created a robot that only screams. Why?
As a proof of concept, primarily. There are other advantages, of course. I shouldn't have to explain the value of a combat drone that wants to kill.
Tell me why you think we're going to beat the essence limit. You hinted at it before, but I want to know.
I could do that. I have already shared quite a lot with you, and you haven't run off screaming. A good sign, I should think. He studies your face, peering at you through the gloom. But tell me, Alley Cat, are you certain that you want to know? Some secrets are less pleasant than others. You might prefer to leave this stone unturned. I want to know whatever you have to tell me, Raptor. I don't run from things because they're unpleasant. Very good. There are things that you don't know about me, my friend. Important things. Please tell me this doesn't end with you hitting on me? No. I'm afraid not. I'm not... How to put it? Whole? Emotionally, you mean? Mentally? There are arguments that could be made to support both of those positions, but no, that wasn't what I meant. I was talking about my physical body. There was an accident when I was young. A shop accident. I barely survived it. I am very heavily cybered, my friend. You wouldn't know it because I keep my enhancements hidden. Others have found them disturbing in the past. Disturbing? How so? The enhancements themselves are not the problem. The extent of the damage that they were meant to correct, however... He sighs. That is a different matter. He uses the edge of his hand to trace a line across his hips. Everywhere below the mid-pelvis is replacement material. That's where I was sheared in half, you see. It's a miracle that I survived the experience. The blood loss alone should have killed me. But here I am, alive and well, greatly improved in point of fact. You're saying that you're half machine? Yes. The loss of so much tissue was traumatic, to be sure, as was the damage to my sense of personal identity, but it isn't so terrible as you might imagine. By every conceivable measure, I have been improved since the time of the accident. I am more than I was before, not less. You lost half of your body. How could that not be terrible? He taps his temple with a finger. The doctors installed stimulus generators in my brain when they repaired me. With these, I can mimic the full range of sensations that the human body is capable of producing. Imagine the ramifications of such a thing. The things that you could do, the things that you could experience. The implications for operant conditioning alone are staggering. And so yes, I have lost the entire lower half of my body. The full ramifications of such a loss are obvious. But in return, I have gained so much more. At will, I can goad my brain into producing whatever sensation I wish. I can poke at the wiring of my own consciousness, and I can reroute that wiring as I see fit. Okay. Weird. Like, very strange that you can just, like, make yourself have big orgasms constantly, Raptor. I didn't really need to know that specifically, but thanks. Alright, so you're half machine. What does this have to do with the essence limit? He spreads his arms. Look at me, Alley Cat. I have a shred of essence left in me, and only barely that. But I suffer none of the ill effects associated with traumatic essence loss. How can that be? A quirk of psychology, long viewed as an illness, but never properly understood. What I now understand to be an evolutionary adaptation to a post-human future. We will conquer the essence limit, given time. Natural selection will see to it, and I am the proof. These stimulus generators that you've been implanted with, how do they work? The technology is rather akin to SimSense, but considerably more powerful and flexible. Most SimSense experiences, those found in BTL chips for example, are structured around basic narratives that provide their users with context. But if you strip away the veneer of escapist fantasy, what you have left is an extremely powerful toolkit. You mentioned, am I gonna have a chance to ask about all of these things? I hope so. I have never heard of anything like that on the market, not even in the shadows. I'm not surprised. They're Russian technology, government funded and quite experimental. He sucks on his cigarette, a thoughtful expression on his face. The project was cancelled shortly after I received my implants. Something about graft and corruption on the administrative level. Yet another example of good science derailed by bad politics. Have you heard of anyone else who's gotten these implants? I know of a handful of other recipients. From what I've heard, the others were all driven quite mad. To be handed control over the inner workings of one's own brain is a tremendous responsibility. He shrugs. Perhaps the others were less well equipped to handle it than I am. Be careful with those things, Ractor. The last thing I need is you wigging out on me. I have carried these implants for over 20 years, my friend. I know how to handle myself. You have nothing to fear. So what else have you been keeping from me? I know that there's more to the story than this. There is, my friend, but nothing that can't wait till tomorrow. You have a lot to process, I'm sure, and I would like the remainder of the evening to myself. But if you come back later, I will finish the tale. Sure, Ractor. We'll talk tomorrow. Ractor's a very interesting character. He is incredibly interesting.